Hey everybody, my name is Fritz Bacon and today I am here with Adorama TV for Filmmaker Week. Adorama set me up with some shiny new gear and told me I could do whatever I wanted with it. So let's talk gear first. For the camera, we are running the LUMIX S5 IIX paired with the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 DG DN2 as well as the Sigma 28 to 45mm 1.8 DG DN. For lighting, we have two Zhiyun Molus G200s and the new Molus B500. Now initially for this project I was thinking a narrative short, and as I was in pre-production looking into casting and all that, things just kept falling through, so I chose to pivot. When I was brainstorming, I remembered the video I did with the LUMIX S9 that came out a couple weeks ago, and I remember there was a new firmware that was pushed for the S5 IIX, and that firmware included new tracking subjects that the S5 IIX can track. Subjects like motorcycles. And that's when I had a new string to pull at. I called up my good friend Kyle and I met him outside of his garage. Now, unfortunately, the forecast called for a thunderstorm, so we had roughly about 2 hours to get this specific shot that I was thinking. So we quickly got into mapping out a plan and a route. You could pull off and then come down under Two Bridges area.
Is it the one by Mr. Fong's?
East Broadway. We'll catch you right here, coming towards us for 2 shots.
Hope I don't end up in Brooklyn.
I also mounted a action camera to his helmet to get his POV for this specific shoot. The plan was for me to walk over the Manhattan Bridge and sort of go to the famous overlook and have Kyle whiz by underneath me and off into the sunset. The only problem was the sunset looked like this. So we just had to keep rolling with the punches, and we would also encounter a few other issues while we were on this location. Oh, he cut you off! Let me see how that looked to see if it's worth. Yeah, let's loop it back. Once we did get the shot, we then met Kyle on the street and got some more B-roll of just him putting on his gear just to have. Kyle got permission from his garage for just him and I to film him putting his bike away, so I didn't get any good BTS, but the 28 to 45mm Sigma lens was super perfect here, as it had that 1.8 aperture, and as you can see in some of these shots, it's very dark, so I was grateful to have sort of that low light type of lens. After my shoot with Kyle, I realized you really can't shoot motorcycles while standing still. So it was time to put the S5 IIX autofocus really to the test with my car rig. My friend Oliver was the first to volunteer, and a fun little fact about this car rig, instead of using my servo, my focus servo to, control the focus, I decided it would be better used to control my zoom so I could have more flexibility in framing with the 24-70 as we were riding around. That meant the autofocus was imperative to have, and luckily it worked out well. The shots with Oliver were feeling really cool, and I was feeling really confident for my next shoot with my buddy Jimmy. We met up in Tribeca and I slapped that rig right back up on that Jeep. Now, I'm not exactly sure why, but the rig was going absolutely nuts in Manhattan. I'm thinking there was some extra signals, maybe with the mics that I was using, as well as I had a few more cameras, a little bit more interference from just things in Manhattan. I had no issues in Brooklyn with Oliver with the rig, but for some reason in Manhattan it was going all over the world, as you can see here. Eventually we were able to get it to work, but then we lost Jimmy. I unfortunately gave my brother, who was driving, the wrong directions, and we turned down the wrong street. We took a right. I thought you went down Leonard, so we took a right early. So we eventually caught up to Jimmy, and then the shots just started rolling in. Perfect. Let's roll. Oh man, dude, this shot looks crazy. You can get a little bit closer. Oh yeah. So to give you a bit of context where we are in the story so far, essentially with everything we have shot at this point in the video, we have the middle and end mostly covered. Now, I had a very specific vision for the intro. And I was going to shoot a motorcyclist. He was going to get ready and we were going to go out, and it was a whole thing that we had planned. It has been raining today and it was also raining yesterday. So that shoot, that whole idea sort of went up in smoke. So I've been working on a backup shot in my studio today. I was thinking I could have a friend drop by, throw on a motorcycle helmet, throw on a jacket, and we could do something dramatic in the rain, and that could be a good intro. So I realized I have these massive windows in my office. What if I just took the B500 and I blasted through the window? In theory that would work. You know, I was very sort of 50-50 on it, and I realized these lights have Wi-Fi and the range actually was able to work outside. So the idea went from 50-50 to it 100% could work. The only problem was my buddy who was going to come through ended up bailing on me. So back to the drawing board once again. I have one more option, one more trick up my sleeves. Currently I have a motorcycle in my office. Now, I have a friend whose garage, sort of the ceiling caved in, and they're doing a bunch of work to it, and he asked me if he could store it here temporarily. I was like, yes, but just know I'm probably gonna put it in a video, put it in photos, something like that. He's totally cool. He said, do whatever you want with it. So that brings us to this new intro. I decided I was going to light this bike, and I was gonna light it in a way that sort of would give me a fast-paced intro with dramatic lighting. So I got the B500 onto a C-stand arm, and as I was trying to swing it around, trying to get the light just right, pass over it where it didn't look too harsh, but the arm didn't necessarily work. It was a little too slow for me, and I mean, this is essentially what I ended up doing. It looks a little ridiculous, but the video felt a lot more natural and organic, which I guess makes sense as I'm just sort of whipping it around like a wild person. For the reveal shots, I put a Zhiyun lantern softbox on the B500, and then I used the two G200s, one for fill and one in this sort of spotlight apparatus. And my intro was complete. And right now, I don't have a conclusion. I now need to go edit everything, and I'm going to play the video right after this, and then I'm going to come back and say my final thoughts on this project as a whole. Well, it's the next day for me. I just wrapped up editing that final video, and I was surprised with how it came out in the edit. With all that had went wrong when I was trying to film that intro portion of the video, I didn't think it would turn out to be my favorite part of the video, but with the dramatic lighting and with a little bit of sound effects, I thought that was the most compelling part of that video. If I was to do this differently, I would definitely shoot a little bit more B-roll that wasn't just rollers with the other motorcyclists, as I think there could have been a little bit of variation in the edit there. But for the most part, I was pretty happy with how this all looked and turned out. A big thank you to Adorama TV for having me here for Filmmaker Week.